Mr.ShroomCaster. It all started with a lunch break I wish I could take back. Jake and I were sitting in the break room, surrounded by the usual mix of sad desk salads, half-eaten sandwiches, and vending machine snacks. Jake had just finished his turkey sandwich and was scrolling through Instagram, his face lighting up with that smug look he gets when he's about to say something annoying. "Hey, Caleb," he said, holding up his phone. "Check this out. This dude dropped, like, 20 pounds in a month on some crazy reset diet. No sugar, no junk, no alcohol. Look at these before and after pics. You could use something like this." I rolled my eyes. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I mean," he said, grinning, "we both know you've got a thing for late-night Taco Bell runs. Just saying this might be good for you." I glanced at the post. The guy looked like he'd walked out of a fitness magazine, tan, shredded, and flexing like he was auditioning for an action movie. Jake had a point. My eating habits weren't exactly stellar. I'd been meaning to get back in shape since college, but somehow next week kept turning into next month. Still, I wasn't about to let Jake win. "Please," I said, leaning back in my chair. "I could crush that diet. It's just a month. No big deal." Jake raised an eyebrow. "You? Last 30 days without sugar? Without junk food? Without pizza?" He smirked. "Yeah, okay. I'll believe it when I see it." That's when my pride kicked in. "All right, let's make it official," I said. 30 days. I'll follow all the rules. No sugar, no processed food, no alcohol, no dairy, no grains. And I'll hit the gym 3 times a week, just like your influencer buddy." Jake laughed. "You're gonna hate yourself by day 5. That night, I went home and did some research. It turns out this reset diet wasn't just no sugar. It was no fun, period. I'd have to give up bread, pasta, cheese, and even my morning creamer. Instead, I'd be eating things like chicken, broccoli, sweet potatoes, and avocado. The internet was full of stories about how amazing people felt after 30 days, but it was also full of horror stories about cravings, headaches, and something called keto flu. I told myself I could handle it. I mean, how hard could it be? It was just food, right? Besides, the rules weren't impossible. I could eat as much as I wanted, as long as it was whole, unprocessed stuff. I stocked up on spinach, eggs, salmon, almonds, and a bunch of vegetables I couldn't even name. In the gym? Well, I hadn't been in months, but I figured a couple of cardio sessions and some light weights wouldn't kill me. I texted Jake that I was officially starting the next morning. His reply came back instantly. "Can't wait to see you break by Friday." Day 1 felt like a new beginning. I woke up early, made a breakfast of scrambled eggs and spinach, which tasted better than I expected, and sipped on black coffee. The coffee was rough. I'd always been a cream and sugar guy, and drinking it plain felt like punishment. But I choked it down, telling myself it was all part of the process. At work, I passed on the free donuts in the break room and ate my pre-packed lunch: grilled chicken, roasted sweet potatoes, and steamed broccoli. Jake noticed immediately. Well, he said, leaning against the counter. "Look at you. Day 1, and already meal prepping. Don't get too cocky, though. It's only Tuesday." Yeah, I said, brushing him off. "Talk to me in a month when I'm down 10 pounds. By the end of the day, I was feeling pretty good. My energy was up, and I didn't have that usual afternoon slump that comes from inhaling a bag of chips with lunch. I started to think, maybe this won't be so bad after all. For the rest of the week, I stuck to the plan like my life depended on it. I went grocery shopping again, loading up on lean meats, veggies, and a comically large bag of almonds. I even meal prepped for the first time in my life, spending Sunday afternoon chopping, roasting, and packing everything into neat little containers. My fridge looked like something out of a fitness influencer's Instagram feed, and I was honestly kind of proud of myself. At the gym, I eased back into a routine with light weights and some time on the treadmill. I wasn't breaking any records, but at least I was showing up. By day 5, I was feeling amazing. My energy was steady, my skin looked clearer, and my usual cravings for junk food were surprisingly manageable. Jake looked annoyed every time I walked into the break room with my perfectly portioned meals, and that only made me more smug. "You're just mad because I'm actually doing it," I teased him one day. "Don't get too comfortable," he shot back. "The hard part's coming." The first week flew by, and honestly, I felt like I was killing it. I traded my usual late-night snacks for almond butter and apple slices, and my mornings no longer included sugary cereal or gas station breakfast burritos. My fridge had become a temple of health. Rows of prepped chicken breasts, containers of roasted veggies, and enough eggs to fuel a small army. Black coffee still tasted like punishment, but I was getting used to it. "It's an acquired taste," I told myself, even though every sip reminded me of burnt toast. The cravings weren't as bad as I'd expected. Sure, I'd occasionally catch myself thinking about pizza or a bag of Doritos, but it wasn't unbearable. By the end of week 1, I was convinced this diet thing was going to be a breeze. Getting back to the gym was humbling. I'd convinced myself that I was still kind of in shape, even though I hadn't worked out in months. That illusion shattered within 5 minutes on the treadmill. My legs felt like lead, and my lungs were on fire. Just warm up, I muttered to myself, slowing the pace. I glanced at the guy next to me, who looked like he could run a marathon without breaking a sweat. After the treadmill, I tried lifting weights. Nothing crazy, just some dumbbell curls and bench presses. By the time I was done, my arms felt like spaghetti, and I was pretty sure my legs were going to give out on the walk to my car. But hey, I'd done it. I dragged myself to the gym 3 times that week, each session feeling slightly less like a near-death experience. By day 6, I started noticing some small changes. My energy was steady throughout the day. No more 3 p.m. crashes that had me reaching for an energy drink. My jeans felt a little looser, and my skin was looking surprisingly clear. I even felt more focused at work, which Jake loved pointing out. "Wow, Caleb," he said sarcastically during a team meeting. "Look at you, actually paying attention for once. Is this what happens when you eat broccoli instead of donuts? Jealous much?" I shot back, grinning. At home, I was sticking to my meal plan like a pro. Dinner was always some combination of protein, veggies, and healthy fats. I'd rotate between grilled salmon with asparagus, turkey burgers wrapped in lettuce, and chicken stir-fry made with coconut aminos instead of soy sauce. Sure, it wasn't gourmet, but it got the job done. Every time I opened the fridge and saw my neatly prepped meals, I felt like a new person. This wasn't just a diet, it was a lifestyle, and I was nailing it. By the end of week 1, I couldn't shut up about how great I felt. I told my mom during our weekly phone call, and she immediately jumped into concerned parent mode. "Are you sure this diet is safe?" she asked. "It sounds extreme." "It's fine, Mom," I reassured her. "I'm eating better than I ever have. No junk food, no sugar. It's all natural. You should try it." She laughed. "I'll stick to my yoga classes, thanks." Even my friends noticed the difference. One night, I went out with a group of them, armed with my trusty sparkling water instead of a beer. Tyler, my best friend, gave me a once-over and said, "All right, Caleb, what's the deal? You look healthier. Are you working out or something?" "Something like that," I said, trying to sound modest even though I was beaming inside. By the time I hit day 7, I was feeling unstoppable. I had energy for days, my cravings were manageable, and I hadn't even thought about quitting. Jake, of course, was skeptical. "Don't get cocky," he said when I bragged about my progress during lunch. "Everyone feels great at the start. Wait until week 2, you'll see." I waved him off. "You're just mad I'm proving you wrong." In my head, I was already picturing myself breezing through the rest of the month. I'd made it this far. How hard could it be to keep going? But what I didn't realize was that week 2 was going to hit me like a freight train. The cravings, the fatigue, the mood swings. It was all waiting for me, and I had no idea what was coming. Week 2 started like any other Monday, except it wasn't. I woke up feeling off, like I hadn't slept at all. My body was heavy, my head felt foggy, and for the first time since starting the diet, I didn't want to get out of bed. "Just push through," I told myself, dragging my feet to the kitchen for my usual breakfast of eggs and avocado. But even that felt like a chore. The eggs tasted bland, the avocado was mushy, and the coffee, my one solace, tasted worse than usual. By lunchtime, I was fantasizing about a burger and fries. My pre-packed meal of chicken and broccoli sat in the office fridge, mocking me. Jake noticed, of course. "What's wrong, Caleb?" he asked, smirking as he unwrapped a sandwich. "Losing steam already?" "I'm fine," I lied, stabbing at my broccoli with a fork. But the truth was, I was anything but fine. The cravings hit me like a tidal wave. Suddenly, everything I couldn't have seemed like the most delicious thing in the world. Donuts in the break room, pizza commercials on TV. Even the smell of someone's leftover pasta in the microwave made my stomach growl. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional. I was angry that I couldn't eat the things I loved. I'd catch myself glaring at coworkers eating cookies or chips, silently cursing them for not suffering alongside me. One night, I dreamed about cupcakes. Not just any cupcakes, but the ones from that fancy bakery downtown with the frosting piled high. In the dream, I ate an entire tray by myself, frosting and all. I woke up in a panic, sweating, and had to remind myself that I hadn't actually broken the diet. The gym, which I'd been powering through in week 1, turned into pure torture. I'd get there, lace up my shoes, and feel like I'd run a marathon before even stepping onto the treadmill. One day, I tried my usual weight routine: dumbbell curls, squats, and some bench presses, but my muscles felt weak. My arms shook, my legs wobbled, and after 20 minutes, I called it quits. What's wrong with me? I muttered to myself in the locker room, staring at my pale reflection in the mirror. My energy was gone, my workouts sucked, and I was starting to feel like I'd made a huge mistake. By the middle of week 2, my stomach decided to join the rebellion. Apparently, this was the infamous detox phase I'd read about online, where your body gets rid of all the toxins from your previous junk food-filled life. It wasn't pretty. I'll spare you the details, but let's just say I became very familiar with the bathroom. My stomach felt like it was constantly churning, and I couldn't tell if I was hungry, nauseous, or both. "Dude, are you okay?" Jake asked one afternoon when I came back to my desk looking like death warmed over. "Just part of the process," I mumbled, clutching my water bottle. But inside, I was wondering if I was actually dying. The worst part wasn't the cravings or the stomach issues. It was the mood swings. I went from feeling frustrated to downright furious at the smallest things. Someone cut me off in traffic. I yelled at my steering wheel. The Wi-Fi at work was slow. I felt like throwing my laptop out the window. At home, it wasn't much better. My roommate, Tyler, asked me why I'd been so irritable lately. "I'm not irritable," I snapped, glaring at him. He raised an eyebrow. Yeah, you are. Maybe you should eat a carb or something. Maybe you should mind your own business," I shot back, storming into my room. It wasn't until later that I realized I'd been acting like a complete jerk, but at the time, I blamed it on the diet. By the end of week 2, I was questioning everything. Why had I even agreed to this stupid challenge? Was the weight loss and clear skin worth the cravings, the fatigue, and the constant battle with my own body? I started Googling things like, "Is detox supposed to feel this bad?" and "Signs a diet is killing you." The results weren't exactly comforting. Some articles said what I was going through was normal, while others warned against extreme diets altogether. For the first time since starting, I thought about quitting. Jake would never let me hear the end of it, but was proving him wrong really worth all this misery? One night, as I stared at my meal prep dinner of salmon and asparagus, I realized I didn't even want to eat anymore. Food had become a chore, something I forced myself to do because it was on the approved list. "Just make it to the end of the month," I told myself, pushing the salmon around on my plate. But deep down, I wasn't sure I could. By the time week 2 ended, I wasn't the smug, confident guy from week 1 anymore. I was tired, frustrated, and hanging on by a thread. And little did I know, things were about to get even more complicated. When week 3 rolled around, I was hanging on by sheer stubbornness. My cravings hadn't gone away, but I'd gotten better at ignoring them, or at least pretending they didn't bother me as much. The energy dips and mood swings, though, those were getting worse. One morning, I woke up feeling like my body had been drained of every ounce of strength. My hands were shaky, my heart felt like it was pounding too hard, and I was lightheaded just walking to the kitchen. "Maybe I just need food," I told myself, trying to stay positive. I forced down my usual breakfast of scrambled eggs and avocado, but it didn't help much. I told myself it was just a rough patch. I was so close to the end of this challenge, and I wasn't about to give Jake the satisfaction of seeing me quit. By week 3, people at work started noticing the changes. My face looked leaner, and my clothes fit better. Even Jake seemed surprised. "All right, Caleb," he said one afternoon in the break room. "I'll admit it, you're looking pretty good. Maybe this thing actually works." "Thanks," I said, forcing a smile. But inside, I wasn't feeling proud. The compliments only made me feel more conflicted. It's not that I didn't appreciate them. It's just that I knew something was off. I wasn't feeling strong or healthy. My workout still sucked, my sleep was a mess, and I was constantly on edge. One night, my roommate Tyler cornered me in the living room. "Dude," he said, sitting down across from me, "what's going on with you? You've been acting weird, and honestly, you look, I don't know, pale or something." "I'm fine," I said quickly. "Are you?" he pressed. "Because you don't seem fine. You've been eating like a rabbit, skipping out on hanging with us, and snapping at everyone. Are you sure this diet isn't screwing you up?" I didn't know how to answer. By the middle of week 3, I couldn't ignore the warning signs anymore. My energy was completely shot, and I started getting dizzy spells if I went too long without eating. One day at the gym, I actually had to sit down in the middle of a set because I felt like I was going to pass out. I started keeping snacks on me at all times: nuts, an apple, anything that would keep the dizziness at bay. But even that didn't stop the constant feeling that something was wrong. Then there were the nights. I'd crawl into bed exhausted, but no matter how tired I was, I couldn't fall asleep. My mind raced. My heart felt like it was beating too fast, and I'd toss and turn for hours before finally dozing off. One night, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror, and it stopped me in my tracks. My face looked hollow, my skin pale, and there were dark circles under my eyes. Is this what healthy is supposed to look like? I muttered to myself. Despite everything, I kept going. I told myself it was just part of the process, that my body was still adjusting to the diet. But deep down, I wasn't sure I believed it anymore. The only thing keeping me motivated was the thought of finishing. I was so close to the 30-day mark, and I couldn't let myself fail now. But every day felt harder than the last. By the end of week 3, even the idea of eating another piece of chicken or another plate of roasted vegetables made my stomach turn. I started skipping meals just because I couldn't bring myself to eat the same bland food again. You're almost there, I kept telling myself. Just one more week. The breaking point came on day 23. I was sitting at work, trying to focus on a spreadsheet, when I felt it, a sudden tightness in my chest. My heart started racing, and my hands went cold. For a second, I thought I was having a heart attack. I stood up, gripping the edge of my desk, trying to catch my breath. Jake noticed and came over. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, his usual sarcasm replaced with genuine concern. I don't know," I stammered. "I think I need to sit down." He helped me to a chair and handed me a water bottle. My heart rate eventually calmed down, but the fear didn't go away. "Dude, you need to see a doctor," Jake said. "This diet isn't worth killing yourself over." For the first time since starting the challenge, I realized he might be right. That evening, I made an appointment with my doctor. Sitting in the waiting room, I felt like an idiot for pushing myself this far. I'd done this to prove a point, to win a bet, and now I wasn't even sure what I was proving anymore. When the doctor came in, I explained everything, how the diet worked, what I'd been eating, the workouts, the dizziness, the tight chest. After listening carefully, he frowned. "Caleb, these types of diets can work for some people, but they're not meant to be this extreme. It sounds like your body isn't getting enough nutrients, especially carbs, which are essential for energy, and stress can make everything worse." He ran some basic tests to rule out anything serious and gave me a piece of advice that stuck with me. "You need balance," he said. "Extreme diets like this might show quick results, but they're not sustainable. Your body needs fuel, not deprivation." That night, I sat at the kitchen table with my usual plate of chicken and broccoli. But instead of forcing it down, I got up, opened a box of pasta I'd been avoiding, and cooked myself a bowl of spaghetti with marinara sauce. It was the best thing I'd tasted in weeks. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like my body was at war with itself. I knew I still had a week left of the challenge, but for the first time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to finish. After my doctor's visit, I spent a lot of time thinking about what I was doing to myself. For the past 3 weeks, I'd been so focused on following the rules of this diet, on proving Jake wrong, that I hadn't stopped to consider whether it was actually good for me. I was tired, moody, constantly hungry, and my body felt like it was running on fumes. And yet, the idea of quitting before the 30 days felt like failure. On day 24, I sat at my desk, staring at the sad little container of chicken and broccoli I'd packed for lunch. I wasn't hungry anymore, at least, not for that. My body was begging me for something different, something satisfying. But the thought of eating anything off-plan still felt like cheating. Jake walked by and noticed me just staring at my food. "What's the matter?" he asked. "Your broccoli not doing it for you anymore?" I shot him a glare but didn't answer. I wanted to tell him I was fine, that I was just tired. But the truth was starting to crack through my stubbornness. That night, I made myself another plate of spaghetti. As I sat down to eat, I realized something. I didn't feel guilty. For the first time in weeks, I actually enjoyed my meal. Day 26 was the day I finally hit the wall. I'd skipped breakfast because I couldn't stomach another plate of eggs and avocado. By lunchtime, my energy was so low I could barely keep my eyes open. When I stood up to grab a glass of water, the room spun, and I had to steady myself against the counter. That was it. I couldn't do it anymore. I texted Jake, "I'm done. You win. This diet is BS." He responded almost immediately, "About time. I was starting to worry you were actually going to kill yourself over this." On day 30, I didn't wake up with a sense of triumph. I didn't wake up feeling like I'd accomplished something incredible. I woke up tired, achy, and mentally drained. I weighed myself out of curiosity. I'd lost 12 pounds, which sounded impressive on paper. But looking in the mirror, I didn't feel proud. I looked pale, my face hollow, My body smaller but not stronger. The price I'd paid for those 12 pounds didn't feel worth it. Over the next few weeks, I started introducing the foods I'd cut out: bread, cheese, even the occasional cookie. At first, I felt guilty every time I reached for something unhealthy. But as my energy came back, my workouts improved, and my mood stabilized. I realized how much better I felt when I wasn't starving myself. I still stuck to some of the habits I'd picked up, eating more vegetables, cutting back on soda, but I stopped trying to follow someone else's idea of the perfect diet. Jake, of course, didn't let me off the hook entirely. "So, what did we learn?" he asked one day, grinning. "Not to listen to you," I shot back, laughing. But deep down, I had learned something important. Looking back, those 30 days taught me more than just how not to diet. They taught me that balance matters more than rules, and that listening to my body is more important than following trends. I don't regret trying the challenge. I needed to see for myself what worked and what didn't. But I do regret pushing myself so far just to prove a point. These days, I focus on eating what makes me feel good. Whole foods, sure, but also the occasional burger, pizza, or slice of cake. I still work out, but not because I'm chasing some Instagram-worthy body. I do it because I want to feel strong and capable. Would I ever do another 30-day diet? Absolutely not. But at least now I know that the real reset isn't about cutting out food groups or following someone else's rules. It's about finding what works for you and letting go of the idea that health has to be a punishment. And honestly, that's a lesson I'll carry with me far longer than the weight I lost. I laughed it off. I felt unstoppable. Little did I know, he was right.